All right, everyone. Today is looking at the idea of stocks and bonds. Now, first thing, before we start going into the minutia of all this, is we have to answer this one question first. Why do stocks and bonds exist? Why is it that we can buy into a company? Maybe you're somebody who wants to buy into Facebook or Google or Amazon, and you want to buy stock in that company. Okay, nothing wrong with that. But the question is why? Why can we do this? Well, it's really because of this. And this is kind of the first thing that you really need to get. Because then it makes things make a little bit more sense. Because what happens is when a company, as they grow, as they compete with other people, one of the things that they have to do is they have to have capital. They need to have the resources in which to buy the things they need to stay in business. So like, for example, take Amazon, for example. Big, multi-billion dollar company, made a lot of money since the coup started, but they need facilities. They need shipping centers. They need the Amazon mobiles. They need workers. They need robots. They need products, so that way they can sell it to us. That gets very expensive after a while. That requires a lot of resources. So what happens is when a company reaches a certain point to where, yes, they need investment. They can be a very successful company, but find that they cannot reach beyond a certain limit. Their PPC curve doesn't shift that far out. So what happens is a company then can then turn around and start offering stocks and bonds. Now, when you buy stock in a company, like you go off and you buy Facebook stock, what you're doing is you're buying ownership into that company. You are investing in that company. Bonds, a lot like the same way. But with bonds, it's more of taking out a loan. Like the company, governments do this a lot as well. They will sell bonds, and you buy the bond, you hold on for a little bit, and then you give it back with to get your money back, plus a little some extra, which we call interest. But this is that starting point. This is why things like stocks and things like bonds exist, where a company needs money. They need resources. They need liquid capital in order to expand, but they don't have it. So these are some of the things that they offer to generate that capital. So, first off, though, if you are going to sell stock in a company, or if your company is going to sell stock, you got to turn that baby into a corporation. And I will spare you the long drawn out process because I'm not a lawyer. I don't work for the government, and I don't want this video to be 5 hours long. So, because of that, I'm just going to give you the kind of the short version. All right. So, first and foremost, to give birth to a corporation, it needs a birth certificate. We call that a charter. And a charter is literally government permission for that corporation to exist. So, like, for example, you have a company like Facebook. Facebook today is a corporation. You can buy stock in Facebook. Facebook originally was not a corporation. It was a partnership pretty much between Mark Zuckerberg and his, some of his buddies. I'll spare you the inner politics of that. Supposedly Mark Zuckerberg screwed a bunch of people over. But what happens is Facebook reached a certain point. They could not technically grow anymore. So they decided they were going to become a corporation. They had to file a bunch of paperwork with the federal government. And within that government, or within all that paperwork, they had to create a charter. Now, what that charter has is 1, government permission to exist. 2, gives the name of the company. So there is one and only one Facebook, with one and only one weird F-shaped thing that they have for their symbol. But it gives the company name. It gives a physical address for that company. So that way they can receive mail and hate letters and bills. So they have to have a physical address. A purpose has to be defined. Why does Facebook exist? Why does Amazon exist? Why does General Electric exist? Why does Bank of America exist? All of these things have to be spelled out. Then features and structures. What does this company look like? What is the company structure? Who are you going to call the CEO? What specifically is their job title going to be? Who are the board of directors, the people that are going to set the company policy? How many vice presidents are you going to have? How many divisions are you going to have? So for example, GE, they have their fingers in a lot of different pies, doing a lot of different things. Each one of those divisions of the company has to have a vice president that oversees it. Okay, what do they do? Or another example, we'll take this into the realm of the fiction. Dark Knight, Batman. You have Gotham Corporation. Maybe you've seen the movie, maybe you haven't seen it. If you haven't seen the movie, watch it. If you haven't, you're bad. But for Gotham Enterprises, or Wayne Enterprises, you had Lucius Fox. He was the guy that ran the research and development division. That was, if you were to take Wayne Corp, apply it to the real world, there was a piece of paperwork that said, we're going to have a guy who runs, I think it was applied sciences, that did all that. But then you had people that were in charge of the finance. You had people that were in charge of the train that was later crashed to the side of the building. But all these things have to be laid out. Now, as time goes on and companies still continue to grow and still continue to develop, this can be amended, where they file more paperwork with the government and update it accordingly. So this is by no means set in stone. Period change. So there we go. Now, what also happens is it lays out the number of stocks that can exist for that company. A company cannot just go through and start printing off a bunch of stocks. Doesn't happen. That's actually illegal to do that now. That's actually a throwback from what happened during the Gilded Age, when you had people that would literally just make stocks willy-nilly on the fly, and this was called watering down the stock, because what happens is people would go out there, buy a bunch of stock, or people would go there, buy a bunch of stock, and then other people would be like, well, we need more stock, we want to raise more money, quick, print more money, or print more stock. In essence, they were trying to print money, and the people that were holding the stock, yeah, they bought the stock, maybe at $100, for example, and then other companies started printing. Well, supply and demand. If the supply of something goes up, the value of it goes down. So then what happened were people who bought the stock for $100, they look around, the stock's everywhere, the value of that stock is less, now they got to sell it for $50 or something. Needless to say, some people got a little dirty with this over during the Gilded Age of the post-Civil War United States and pre-World War I United States. So these stocks or ownership certificates, they are sold to investors, whom we call stockholders, for money. And stockholders own part of the company. And then the company uses this money to build up their business, establish a new location, hire more workers, get more resources, buy more machinery. Just depends on what you're doing. If you're someone like Facebook, yeah, you're going to use that money and build another server farm so you can have the computing power to keep track of everybody's dinner pics and cat videos. And if you're Amazon, you're going to spend that money on the Amazon mobiles that you're starting to see more and more of lately. And I live in Houston, Texas, or in the greater Houston area. They're building another warehouse, or not another warehouse, another shipping center just outside of town. That's where that money comes from, aside from their general profits as well. Next page. So, you're somebody who buys the stock. Okay, well, what do you get out of it? First, you get dividends. This is part of a corporation's profits. So, pretty much the idea is this. The more stock you own in a company, the bigger the check you get. Now, each corporation is different. Some corporations, they will do dividends once a year. They'll do it twice a year. They'll do it quarterly. It just depends on the company, and these things are laid out in the charter. It just, again, it just depends on the company. Each company kind of has their own thing. And again, it's all written out. in charter. And company does their job, they make their money, they make their profit. So remember, profit is pretty much all the leftover money after they pay their bills. So company, they do their thing, then okay, they make their money. They got to pay their workers. They got to maintain their machinery. They got to, pay the bills, pay the power bill, pay the coffee bill, those sorts of things. And then all the money that's left over, that's the profit. Then a chunk of that profit goes to the stockholders. And usually, I think general rule of thumb is about 4 cents per share of stock. That's the rule of thumb. Depends on the company, of course. I do believe industry standard is about 4 cents, 4 to 7 cents. Don't quote me. I'm not a financial advisor. But what happens is, again, the more stock you hold, that's more money for you. So if you own one stock and say they come out and say, okay, for every stock, 4 cents. You own one stock, you get 4 cents. You get more stock, or you have more stock, like 100 shares, that's like, $4. You own, 10,000 shares, 20,000 shares, that's where you start making the monies. Technically, this is how the uber rich actually get paid. They own shares in companies, like Warren Buffett. So another way is, and this is usually what people think of when they think of buying and selling stock, is the value of that stock individually. Bell keeps ringing crazy today. So what happens is, you have a company. So like for my little example, you have Slash and Burn Company. You have stock in that company. The company does really, really well. It makes a lot of money. People go, hey, I want in. I want to buy that shared stock because that company is doing really, really well, which means my investment is going to pay off well. So then people go, shut up and take my money. And demand goes up. So because the demand for that stock goes up, the price of that stock will naturally rise as well. So people do this. They buy the stock, the value of it goes up, they sell it for hopefully a higher price, they make their money. This is how day traders make their money. They buy and sell stock all the time. This is where you get the phrase buy high, sell low. I'm sorry. Buy low, sell high. Sorry. Screwed that up. But this is what they do. For people that buy and sell stock all day, they will sit, they will have the monitors in front of them, or they're at the stock market. They'll usually have the news on as well. And they will just be watching their stock. They'll buy into a handful of companies, and they'll just watch. Ooh, it went up, sell. It went down, buy. And they can make money this way. But if you're somebody that's buying stock for a more long-term investment, one, you get the dividends. Second, this is something you keep an eye out for as well, when stocks split. This is actually a good thing because as the stock increases in value, because people want it, and the company is doing well, the stock, they can split into multiple stock of less value. So hypothetically, let's look at it this way. You have a share in a company. $50. And it's decided that, we're going to split our stock. People are buying this. The value is going to go up. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to take those shares of stock, split them all in half. So say you hold one share of stock in my Slash and Burn company. Where once you had one share of stock that was worth $50, now you got two that's worth $25. Doesn't sound like, this is like, yeah, whatever. Well, here's the thing, and this is what happens. The price is low. People hear about this price, or the stock being lower, but the company is still doing really well. You hear, ooh, the stock is going to split. It's low now, which means I need to buy in now while the price is still good. So people will buy into the company more. That will, in turn, drive the stock value even higher. And think about it this way. Whereas originally when you had one share of stock and that price shoots up to $100, you made $50 if you sold it at $100. Now you hold two shares of stock. at $25. People buy. It drives the price back up to $100 still. You just made $150, whereas originally you would have made only $50. So this is something where when people invest in long term, this is something that's actually very beneficial, especially if the company is doing well. Now, what can happen, and this is something I did not know about till fairly recently, is what happens when you have a reverse split. Now, usually you see this when a company is actually in trouble a little bit. The most recent one that I have heard about this, as of the making of this video, which is September of 2021, end of September 2021. This happened last August. General Electric, they did a reverse split. They did an 8-to-1 reverse split, which means for every 8 stock that you had in that company, that became 1. And this was around, and usually rule of give or take, but in general, the price of GE stock was $13 a pop. They did the reverse split, 8-to-1. So now, currently, if you were to look at their value at September 27, 2021, it would be somewhere around $100, give or take. Now, this is usually when you see a company beginning to get in trouble, where the price has been low for a long time, and people are starting to kind of back away a little bit. The demand for it is going down. So because the demand is going down, the price is going down. And a company, they see, they're in trouble. So they do this to kind of, so that way when people walk by, the more casual observer, they will see, oh, it was $13. Now it's $100. Ooh, that must mean the company's doing better now. I better buy in now. When in reality, they really didn't be better. They just lowered the amount of stock that they had in circulation. Usually you see this when a company's in trouble. This has only been done a handful of times. You're more likely to see a regular split, not a reverse split, because companies avoid this. There's a lot of things they will do before they start messing with this. Now, if you buy stock and you're going to do this in a more long-term manner, pretty much they come in 2 basic flavors. And again, this is one of those things where you need to look specifically at the company itself and what it says in their charter. But in general, the big umbrellas is you have 2 main types of stock. You have your common stock, you have your preferred stock. Now, with your common stock, you have basic ownership. Each share gives you 1 vote for the board of directors. And the board of directors are the people that run the company overall. They set the policy. Now, usually you'll have a CEO, chief executive officer. They're the one, and these are the people who run the company. Really what their job is to carry out the will of the board. So, the board of directors, they're the ones who set the policy for the company. This is what we want the company to do. The CEO, or sometimes they're called the president, they will carry out the board's directives. So they're the ones who see the day-to-day operations. And they get a larger share of the dividends, like a greater percentage. They might get like 6%. Whereas if somebody who has preferred stock, they get less dividends. They may get like 4 cents. You get some ownership. You don't get the votes. But you get paid before the common stock people. So kind of what happens is you have a choice. And again, this is more for like long-term, very savvy investing. You could buy the common stock, you get more money, but you carry more responsibility. So when it's time to vote for the people that run the company, you're on the hook for it. So you take on a bit more responsibility. If you're preferred stock, you just throw in your money, see what happens. You don't get a say in anything. And but when it's time to distribute the dividend payments, you actually get paid first. So it's kind of what do you want to get? What do you want to give up? What is your opportunity cost? Way back at the very beginning. So Depending on the company, they can offer one, they can offer the other, they can offer both. Again, it just depends on the company. You need to, again, it's one of those things. Research, invest, or research on what you want to invest in and what you actually get out of it. Now, if something happens and the corporation goes belly up, it goes out of business, it becomes a dead fish in your fish tank. What happens is the preferred stock people actually get paid first before the common stockholders. So pretty much what happens is this. Company fails, the assets will usually get liquidated. They sold off to the highest bidder. And when it's time to pay off the investors, the preferred stock people will get paid. The common stock people, they'll get paid with what's ever left over. This is how some people, like when Enron went under in the, I want to say early 2000s, when Enron went under because they were doing dirty things on the side. This is why a lot of people actually committed suicide, because they had a lot of common stock in Enron. In fact, all their money was tied up in common stock of Enron. Enron goes belly up because they're doing shady stuff, and as a result, they literally lose everything. They go from being the top 1% to being the lowest 1%, and because they were common stock, the people who had the preferred stock, they pretty much took all the money first. Now, if a company is big enough or profitable enough, they can go on the stock exchange. Now, in the United States, there's kind of three main biggies. Dow Jones, Standard & Poor's, usually called S&P for short, and the NASDAQ. These are the three biggies that are within the United States. But there's others that are there. You have the London Stock Exchange. The Chinese have their own stock exchange. I forget the name of that one. And I think there's one in India as well. And there's a few others that I'm not totally sure where they are. So, if you're somebody who's watching this in another country, give me a comment in the comment section. I know, lame. But yeah. But the stock market is where you buy and sell stock. Even if you're someone that is purchasing online at home through Scottrade or Ameritrade or or Robinhood or all the places where you can buy stocks, what they do is they actually access their networks and buy the stock there. And today, because of technology and everything else, most of it's done through computer anyway. But this is where you go to actually buy the stock. And now, bonds are where a company and governments do this a lot as well. They take out a loan without actually taking out a loan. Because when you go take a loan, you go to the bank and say, please bank, can I have some monies? And they may or may not give it to you. With a bond, pretty much is this. I sell you a sheet of paper, and I promise to repay you later with interest. It could be 5 years, it could be 10 years, it could be 20 years, it'll say on the bond. And the bond picture that I have up here is actually from the government. The government actually will do these. They do this all the time, especially in the United States. They do it a lot. A lot. When we talk about the debt clock later, that'll give you nightmares. But companies can do this as well. But usually they don't do it so much. Company sells a bond with a promise to repay it. So kind of what happens is you buy a bond for $100. You hold on to it for about 20 years. You sell the bond back for about 150 bucks. Yeah, you're not going to get rich on bonds. That's pretty much it. Now, if you want to save, put some money aside for maybe a rainy day or something later, like you want to save up for your kid's college fund or something, this is one of those things that some people have done for that. But yeah, that's actually pretty much it as far as this goes. But I will say this though, when it comes to if you decide you want to invest, I cannot tell you who to invest in because I am not a financial person with a license. I'm not an accountant or a financial guru or anything like that. I'm just a dude that teaches high school. But some things that you can do. One, you can talk to a financial planner. They can help you with this. If you're somebody who already has a bank account, you can talk to your bank and they can give you some pointers, give you some directions to look at on what you can do with this. But no matter what, and this is what I would say all the time, even if you were going to purchase a car, do your research, look into it, know what's going on. A good rule of thumb that I kind of follow before I purchase any stocks in a company is I will watch it and I will dig through their data for about 6 months. Or rather look through 6 months of data, usually longer, before I do anything. But again, number one thing that I have to legally say is talk to a financial advisor or financial planner before you start doing anything, so that way you can make decisions that don't land you in trouble. And aside from that, I got nothing left to say, so I'm out.